All right, what's up, guys? Logan here. So I'm going to walk through 5 things, okay? And it's all about SEO. And what it's going to come down to is, first off, what is SEO? Second thing is, what is SEO good for? 3 is going to be what industries really need SEO the most. 4 is going to be 3 ways to really identify, is your SEO working if you are hiring somebody to do it? And last but not least is, do our websites over here at CGN have SEO built into them? So let me first jump into what is SEO. SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. What a search engine is, this is Google.com, Bing, Yahoo, anywhere where you're going and searching in like a search bar to try to pull up certain results. Okay? So technically, YouTube is also a search engine as well. They just pull up, videos, not actual like articles and stuff like that. So the whole idea of SEO is, how can we make a website show up higher in Google when people are searching for things that you want to show up for? So if you're a landscape company, it doesn't make sense that if somebody searches for a pizza restaurant near them, that your website's going to pull up, right? Because at the end of the day, Google and all these other search engines, they want to show the most relevant, in their opinion, the most relevant articles or links or whatever it is to the person that's searching. All right. And the way to best do that with Google is to build a brand, because Google likes brands. Google does not want to show a rinky-dink random company that has few reviews, not active on social media. Like, all that stuff plays into it because they want to show brands. If you search for, sporting good company on Google, there's a very good chance that you're going to get dicks. Okay? The good kind, like the store. All right? So what Google is afraid of is they're afraid that you as a consumer are going to Google, let's say pizza restaurant near me. And you're going to find the top one that Google showed. And when you show up, you realize that they're closed or they're out of business or whatever. And then you are going to get pissed off at Google for showing this. And you're going to go, screw it, I don't want to come back to Google because last time they got me. And when you don't come back to Google, Google cannot show you ads, which is how Google makes money. And that's essentially what SEO is. All right, nobody actually knows the exact formula for stuff. It's kind of like your credit score, right? Like, if I go on my credit score right now, it's going to tell me, hey, because you have all these credit cards, your credit score goes down. But they're also going to say, because you have all these credit cards, your credit score goes up. So I don't even know if they're helping or hurting or what, because it's confusing as shit. And that's how Google is as well. They don't tell you, they just give you some suggestions, and it's kind of on you to figure out how that all works. All right. Worst part is they update it like 7 times a day, so it's always changing. Second thing is, what is SEO good for? All right. At the end of it all, SEO, most people rely on SEO way too heavily to do essentially all their bidding for them. All right, and what I mean by that is, people think that, as long as I'm at the top of Google, people are going to actually hire me. But that's not the case. All right, SEO is not there to convert people that are just browsing into buyers. Because if you think about it, if somebody's searching for kitchen remodeling company near me, there's only a small portion of those people that are actually going to call a kitchen remodeling company that day. We all think that if you're going to do a Google search and you're going to pull up a website, that you're going to call them immediately. But think about how many times you've maybe looked at a new car online that you're looking at buying, or a new set of TVs, right? Or whatever it is. You don't immediately search, look at it, and then buy. You look at it over and over and over. And that's what SEO is really good for. But it's not going, just because you're number one in Google does not mean that you're going to make $1 billion. Because at the end of the day, if you have a product or a service that is a longer sales cycle, especially on the remodeling, high-end landscaping side, those are not purchases that people just do one quick Google search and they call you. It takes time for them to continuously check that stuff out. So SEO is really good at helping you build a brand and getting your name out there more and more and more and building trust with people, but it's not meant to be a piece that is going to convert just general browsers into buyers. Now, the third thing we're going to talk about is which industries need it the most, because there are certain industries that these are exceptions for, and they're what we call as 911 services. Now, what a 911 service is think about why you would call a contractor for an emergency. It could be, plumbing, which is like your pipes are leaking, or it could be restoration or remediation or something, there's a hole in your roof, right? Those are services that as a consumer or a homeowner, you're not really concerned with getting 14 bids or spending 6 months trying to pick the perfect contractor. You're really focused on getting somebody out there right now. So for those industries, it is more important to be at the top of Google because they don't need, or they're not really looking for you to be the number one company with all the reviews and all the amazing stuff. They like that stuff, but it's not going to be a super long sales process because they need you out there now. So being at the top of Google for that is way more important for a roofing company or any other company where they need you now compared to remodeling. Like nobody falls into an emergency remodeling situation where they go, oh my God, I need to get a contractor out here right now to remodel my kitchen for $90,000. Like it just doesn't happen. All right. So for painting, landscaping, remodeling, home building, deck building, anything that's like really more like the GC side of things, that's more of a pleasurable thing that people buy. SEO is really good for the brand, and that's about it. If you're in one of those industries where it's not super relevant to get at the top of Google right now, you don't really need to worry about it. All right, because it will help the brand, but it's not going to convert people. And I think that's the biggest myth is everybody thinks that, they need to be at the top of Google to actually get more customers. And it helps a lot, but there's a lot of other ways that will help even more. And especially if you're in one of those long-term industries, it's not the end-all be-all. Now, the next thing we're talking about is if you have an SEO company. SEO is one of those industries or one of those services that a lot of people don't really know what the hell is going on because it's kind of like let me give you a scenario. One of the biggest fears that a homeowner has when hiring, let's say, an electrician is if an electrician is going to work at an hourly rate and they're doing troubleshooting, right? They're not coming in to, do some recessed lighting. They're trying to figure out why half the home is not lit up. Right? And that's troubleshooting. So what the homeowner is fearful of is that they're going to hire an electrician who's going to come out there for 2 days straight, charge them an hourly rate, and get nowhere. Because the homeowner doesn't know what the electrician is doing. They don't know what they're looking for. A lot of the stuff that they're doing is like behind the walls. They have no idea. So they're fearful that the electrician is going to come out, do all this stuff, and they're going to get no results. And that's essentially how SEO companies operate, is they say, look, we're going to do all this stuff that you have no idea how it works. In fact, you're not going to see a lot of the stuff that we do, but you're just going to have to trust us. And that's why a lot of people get concerned, business owners get concerned when hiring an SEO company because they have no idea if it's going to work. And what they do is they say, screw it. If I can't rationalize this in my head of how it works, I might as well, if I'm going to get quote unquote scammed, I might as well only get scammed out of a couple $100 a month, not a couple thousand. And they end up hiring a company that says they're doing SEO for a couple hundred, but they're not doing anything. And then they get mad, the homeowner or the business owner gets mad because it doesn't do anything. But in reality, for a couple $100 a month, if it felt too good to be true, it is. All right, so here's how to identify if your SEO is working or not. And the first thing to think about is, are people actually searching for your services on Google? All right, there are certain industries or certain terms or phrases or whatever it is that you do, are people even searching on Google? Let's say something very specific, right? Let's say you're a tile company, you're a tile contractor, right? You do backsplashes and you do bathrooms. Tile is one of those industries where you're not going to get that many searches. You're just not, right? There's not that many people who are specifically looking for just one thing, which is let's say backsplashes, right? They may be looking for ideas, but they're really wanting to hire maybe a full-on kitchen remodeler. So they're really going to be searching for a kitchen remodeling company, not something very specific like the backsplashes, right? And it may not feel that specific to you, but the way that people buy that service is a different way. Like home building, a lot of people still hire or reach out to an architect first before contacting the custom home builder, which in reality is opposite. It's backwards. The homeowner should be reaching out to a home builder before an architect, but people don't go that route. They think they should be reaching out to an architect first. So the first thing that we have to identify is, how are people actually hiring this service? And if part of that is not going onto Google to find that exact service, then it doesn't matter how number one in Google we are, because nobody's looking for it. Right? Let's say, which brings me to the next thing, is another way is you're at the top of Google, but it's such a specific term that you're at the top of Google for that nobody's going to find it. Right? So Company name over here is Contractor Growth Network. If I said, hey, I want to be number one in Google for when people search for Contractor Growth Network, Logan Shinholzer, gray shirt, like nobody's ever going to search that. So if I'm number one in Google for that, that's fine, that's great. But if nobody's actually searching for that exact phrase, it doesn't matter. And that is what a lot of SEO companies do, where they say, well, if you have somebody search for, kitchen remodeling company, Dilworth neighborhood, which is like a very specific search, they're going to say, well, you're number one in that. Yeah, but nobody's searching for that. They're searching for kitchen remodeling company near me or kitchen remodeling Charlotte, something like that. So the first part of all this is people are just not searching, they're not going to Google for your industry as a whole. The second part is maybe they are, but you're only showing up for very specific terms that nobody's searching for. So that's how a lot of SEO companies trick businesses, is they say like, well, you're showing up for this, but it's like, yeah, but nobody's actually going for that. And the third piece of all this to figure out if your SEO is working or not is people are searching for it, which checks off the first box. People are, you are near the top of Google for the terms that they are searching for, which checks off the second box. But the third one is really the kicker here. And it's now that they're coming on your website, are they actually turning into a buyer? And that is really the difference between how we operate and how an SEO company operates. What an SEO company is all about is let's just get people over to the website, right? We just want to get them over to the website. But the way that they do that is they actually sacrifice all of the different aspects of a website that are intended to convert somebody into an actual buyer. All right, and what I mean by this is you've probably been on these websites where it's maybe another contractor or maybe it's your website where it's just like all words. Like think about it, like the industries that I'm talking about, remodeling, landscaping, painting, deck building, those are all visual industries. People love to see what the end product of a kitchen looks like, but these websites have a small little picture of like an old kitchen on it and then 5,000 words. Because what they're trying to do is to tell Google, hey, put us at the top, but when somebody comes on that website, it doesn't do anything to actually move them towards being a buyer. Right? There's minimal photos, tons of text, and all this text looks chaotic. It's overwhelming for people, and when they see that it's overwhelming on your website, they're going to assume that working with you is overwhelming, and that's why they're leaving. So sure, maybe people are searching for the right stuff, and they're coming to your website, but I see it all the time where they will go to a contractor's website because the contractor is near the top of Google, but it is such an ugly, unattractive website that the people go, screw this, I'm going to somebody else. All right, so sure, you got a bunch of people to the website, but if nobody's actually turning into a paying customer, then what's the point? And it's similar to hiring, let's say, a salesman who's going to cold call for you. Let's say the salesman could cold call all day long, and they could reach out to 1,000 homeowners. But if they had no idea how to sell, they could reach out to 10,000, and they would still get 0 sales. And that is exactly what happens with SEO. Is you may be getting a lot of people to the site, but if it's not intended to actually convert somebody into a paying customer, then it doesn't matter how many people you have to the site because your ROI is still 0. And the last piece is, over here at CGN, do our websites have SEO incorporated into them? And the answer is yes. Every single website that we build, we actually build with the SEO infrastructure, if you will, to make sure that it's set up for Google to understand what the website's about. Now, that's not to be confused with how to get to the top of Google, which is a whole other strategy. If you want to learn more about how that works and how we do it, I recommend reading a book called They Ask, You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. But that will break down essentially how to use helpful blogs and articles and stuff to not only answer the right questions that your customers want to learn about that's going to help build trust with you, but also it's going to signal to Google, hey, we are a brand that is focused around helping clients understand every aspect of our world over here in this business. And Google, again, remember, they love brands. They want to help out the brand. So they will show your brand more and more and more, but simply sacrificing all persuasive sales and design elements just to get at the top of Google is going to hurt you. So for us, we build in those SEO elements to a certain extent, but we do not sacrifice actually, the persuasive elements that it's going to take that once somebody comes on there, they're going to turn into a paying customer. So at first, you may not be at the top of Google, right? You may not be showing up over and over and over, and that's all by design, right? Because we want to first make sure that when people come onto the website, they're going to turn into a paying customer. And once we know that that is a fact, which is exactly why we build our systems the way that we do for clients, once we know that that's going to be true, now the next step is let's get people over there, and that is where the like a future SEO strategy comes in, Facebook ads, all that stuff. But throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks, which is what most people do when it comes to hiring an SEO company, is never going to win, right? We have clients, like, to give you an example, we had a client that his website was built for SEO. It straight up was built for SEO. Right? And what that means is it was a ton of text, and he was a remodeler. And he hit me up and he said, hey, look, man, what's going on is I'm getting a lot of people over to the website, but it is so text and word heavy that nobody is actually calling us, or they are calling us, but they're all low-end people. And I hate that. So we switched it. We updated it. We kept, and there's ways we can actually keep the SEO juice without sacrificing like going from like page 1 down to page 5 or anything like that. Like for us, I don't think I've ever had a client that like when they came in with their SEO that they dropped down, right? At worst, they stayed the same. A lot of people actually increase in their rankings in Google, because the way that Google sees it is if you're going to give people a good brand to look through, and you're going to make the website very helpful and easy to navigate, that's going to give people a very good feeling about your website. So Google likes it, and they're going to promote you more. So for us, everybody either comes in and either stays the same or they go up. All right. We build the SEO into it, but it's not the text heavy that is focused on essentially shooting you up to the top of Google, even though you're going to get no sales off of it. So make sure that you are approaching this with the right mindset here when it comes to SEO, that this is not the end all be all. This is not going to save your company overnight. It is a long-term play, and the stronger brand that you have, the easier it is to show at the top of Google. Thank you guys very much.